in a way, I think the acquisition of things is quite anal and is being used as a substitute for empty lives. Having a hope, you've got to have a hope. And I believe, in magic, that, it may not seem as we're all material. It's not about only material. Whether you find it faith in different ways, you've got to believe there's more to this than this material world, I believe.
This is the We Make Success Happen podcast.
This is the We Make Success Happen podcast with Matt Callanan.
This next one is an amazing video I was sent about a guy called Matt Callanan.
An amazing and inspiring soul who goes by the name of Matt Callanan.
Hello and welcome to We Make Success Happen podcast. Today with amazing human Dilys Price, OBE.
Hello.
Hello. I'm so grateful that you've come down to our new studio as well.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I like getting out.
So you've got a good long list of achievements. The OBE,
Yes.
your charity that you set up, Touch
Yes,
Trust.
yes, I'm very
You're
proud
a teacher.
Yeah.
The
A
world's
dance teacher.
The world's oldest female skydiver in the world.
Yes, and the oldest skydiver in Great Britain.
Really?
Yes, or I was. I mean, I've stopped doing solos now. I sold my parachute last year. I still do tandems, but that was a good life.
And Lifetime Achievement Awards as well.
Yes, for National Diversity Lifetime Achievement Award, which I'm very proud of. And that was about 8 or 10 years ago. And also the one for Disability Sport Wales, Lifetime Achievement for that, which I'm very proud of, because we were right at the beginning of the Paralympics. And there was such a different attitude then. And now things have changed so much. And I feel that me and my students, because they're very much part of it, were part of this pioneering beginning.
So out of all of those amazing things, what's been the thing that's brought you the most joy?
Most joy, skydiving. But if you like, the most sense of value and joy, in another way, the Touch Trust. Because we did change attitudes completely. Well, I think it's rather hard to say what give me the most joy. They all give me joy.
Yeah.
And actually, walking in the lane with my little dog and seeing the weeds with the flowers on them give me joy. So I suppose giving joy is when you feel that you're putting a spark into other people and igniting a flame or helping the flame, or for oneself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. If we talk about the skydiving, what age did you get into skydiving then?
When I was 54. Mind you, to be honest, I was skiing, I was canoeing, I was windsurfing. I had my own windsurf, which I used to put on top of the car and take down to the to Porthcawl. So, I've always been, but I don't do any of these things to elite level. And I used to say to my students, I'm somebody who loves movement and will push for moving and doing fun things and doing things that push your boundaries, but you don't do very well. And I'm a great believer in that. The elite, we need a place for the elite, for the horses that can trot very well, but we need a place for people to enjoy moving. In fact, it's essential that we start teaching children to move and to enjoy doing things, doing outdoor pursuits, doing even though they're not going to do them very well. That way we teach them resiliency. And if you like, if I was a fairy godmother, that is the one gift I would give to children and old people.
Why? What's the power of movement then?
Well, moving, you're in touch with yourself. We are meant to move. We are physical beings. So at every level, it gets the endorphins going. It makes you push outside your comfort zone a little. It makes you feel good, and that you then go on pushing your comfort zone a little bit more. It's essential. And also, it teaches them that when they fall and they bloody their knees, they get back on and try again. It's essential. Children now have to go to things and they have to pay. Now that makes me very sad. What about the many children who don't have the money? Now then there's no place for them to go now. There are less fields, there are no streets where you can play football. And it's the essential thing, both to be healthy, so that when they get older, their muscles have this muscle memory, but also to have this sense of joy. So I think the sense of joy comes through getting the endorphins going. And you get that through a sport, but you also get it through connection. But even a smile gets the endorphins going. Let's be physical, let's be joyful, let's have hope, let's go for it.
With the skydiving, what age did you, if you don't mind me asking, what age did you sort of knock that on the head then?
Well, 54. And I mean, that was, you see, the lovely thing is, I believe that we have two instincts, survival, but service also.
Yeah.
And that we're not really in a well-being situation unless we fulfill both those. And if you like, it's the levels. We were just cave dwellers, and we were just having to chase animals to get food and to get warmth. But we are moving beyond that. There are other levels, and the spiritual level is another sort of level, and we are spiritual as well as physical. That's the unique thing about, I think, us. And so we want to move into that area as well. And so I did the skydive to raise money for our charity, which was working with children who were vulnerable in different ways, and we had a sports club for them. We took them out of pursuits, we took them to gymnastics, we took them to the Special Olympics, which actually I started in Wales, which is great. So they needed some money. And I said to my students, you've done a walk, you've done a concert, what you need to do is a skydive. And of course, if they were going to do it, there's no doubt about it, I had to do it, because you have to lead from the front.
Yeah.
And I was terrified.
Yeah.
So although I enjoyed skiing and other things like that, and maybe they'd led me in those things, if they were going to do skydiving, I had to do it again. But for me, it was my destiny. When I came down, I just said, sign me up. I was in love with skydiving. And that gave me a fantastic 20 years, 30 years even, although right at the end I think I wasn't challenging myself quite as much because your skills aren't quite as good. But was it a parable for living? Because after that, I started the Touch Trust.
Oh, it was after, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the courage that I learned skydiving, because there's no doubt about it, I was terrified every time.
Every time?
Just about. Yes, I was
terrified
every time at different levels. But you've got to get that ripcord pulled out, and the reserve, not the reserve, but the main up there. So they say your blood pressure goes up when you get changed, goes up a bit more when you go into the plane, goes up even more as you jump out, but it's at its highest when you pull your ripcord and you're waiting for the parachute to open. And you've got seconds then.
Oh, is it seconds?
Oh, yeah. Because
really? It's not a split second, it is seconds?
It is seconds, because you have to think and get it right. So if you've got twists and you decide, you make a decision, I can kick out of those. You have a twist and you think, I can't kick out of those, I've got to jettison it and go for my reserve. It's seconds, and you've got no time to wonder if this is the right thing. And I think that's the thing I love. In fact, I used to wait till the last second. And in fact, some of the video men would actually just say, you leave it at the last second. And even now, I think of that moment as the ecstatic moment. It opens, you've done it. You faced death and you've avoided it. It's silly, isn't it?
So has there been any close calls then?
Oh, yes.
Has there?
Oh, yes.
Like what?
I've
Must
had
have
some
been the closest call then?
I've had some reserve rides. I've had a reserve ride in Arizona, and that time I was on a round reserve, and I was landed amongst the cacti, which meant that apart from the fact apart from the fact that you had to go for the reserve because it didn't open properly, I knew that it was in twist. And then you had to come down on a round parachute and avoiding all the cacti. And I think even one of the German elite athletes, I think he was in the team, I remember he was spending the day with them all picking out the little pins.
Oh, no.
But as well as that, I've had twists which I couldn't kick out of because there were too many.
Yeah.
And that moment was terrifying in the sense that it was right to the wire. I was getting lower, time was passing, I was pulling to release my mane, because I knew that I couldn't get out of the twists. And because there were so many twists, I couldn't release the mane. And actually, when I landed, they found burn marks on the lines because of the twists. And I was probably 500 feet from the ground. And I remember thinking, I've gone through this door before. I didn't have any panic at all.
Really?
But a bigger desire to live. But it was a case of, oh yes, this door's coming, and I'm not going to go through it because I'm not ready to die. But I wasn't afraid of it.
How did you stay so calm then?
Well, I don't know. I think, the wonderful thing about anything where you push the boundaries is you find resources in yourself that you didn't find otherwise. And I suppose, you find resources in the world of business, etc., when you go to the edge. And actually, I just love going to that edge. I don't know. I loved it. I can't tell you how much I loved it.
So how many, do you call them jumps? Or how many jumps did you...
Skydives.
Skydives. How many skydives did you do then?
Well, 1,139. And
Really?
I did the last 3 when I was 85. And that's way over what anyone else had done. Any woman anyway. But, and I'd go on doing it. Now, the last time I jumped, I nearly went in. That was another terrifying experience.
What do you mean when you nearly went in?
Well, I nearly didn't survive.
Really?
Okay?
Why? What happened there?
Because I had thought, 85, I've got more time. I'm not so involved in the Touch Trust, which I'd started, of course, when I was 74. And I thought, now I'll spend more time working on my skydiving, because, of course, I came second in the freestyle British parachute games when I was 64.
Really?
Yeah, so I used to work at it. I was always aiming to do another sequence and it's like driving a very fast car. It's very radical. So if you do a pirouette or you do a stand-up or you do a back loop, it's really more difficult than on the ground in one sense. So I thought, I've got plenty of time now. I'm going to give some more time and really work at my skydiving. But of course I was older. I was now 85. I wasn't as fit because, for one thing, I suppose the Touch Trust had taken over a lot of my energy. And I went into a back loop, which I didn't complete properly, ended on my back spinning. Now, you do know how to get back onto your stomach, and you do know how to stop the spin. But it wasn't happening. I couldn't stop it. And I remember shouting to myself, you've got to stop it now. And I still didn't stop. And then gradually I had turned over and the spinning stopped. Because, of course, when you pull your parachute, you don't want to be spinning.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing. So it had just stopped in time. And I was still at 2,200, which is what you're supposed to not go under.
Really?
I pulled my main, I came down, and I thought, I should stop now because my skills aren't good enough, and I don't want to go on doing it more and more badly, and just, so I did give up then.
How did you feel knowing that was maybe your last skydive then?
Well, I think I just knew it was time. Yeah. And the thing about it, of course, is it takes all your energy. You think about it beforehand, you plan it, you get nervous, you're fearful, you're excited. It takes a whole lot of energy in the week, really. And I think I felt it was time to give my energy to other things. And that's what's happening. We went off. I managed to go to Japan and take the program to Japan last year, and that took a lot of doing to get that. We've now on the process of doing more of that because I've got someone who is Japanese who's training to do the program. I want very much to look at the problem of aging and people who are in care homes and are not respected, don't have a project, low on fun and variety. And something's got to be done about it, because I think that we've got to live until we die. And we work on improving people's lives in their youth and when they're young, but we've got to do it till right to the day they die. And it's a national scandal at the moment that we're not doing it properly. And it's partly Western, that we don't respect people as they get older. And of course, when people are younger, they have a purpose in life, they have children, they have to survive, and that's a wonderful purpose. But when you get older, your family have gone, you're not in work, it's very easy to begin to be a little bit down. We cannot do it because there are ways around it. And that is to have a project, to have a passion, to be with people who are enlivened, to have respect and listen to, and to encourage them to keep that flame going. It's got to be done.
Mm. So is it the touch trust that you're trying to take to Japan then?
Yes, we'll call it Touch Trust Japan, I think.
Why Japan then? And do you want to talk about what touch trust actually does then?
Oh, well, I mean, Touch Trust is just a wonderful program. It's based on multi-sensory activities. Now, when I was teaching and I would go into a special school, I'd see children and they would be in perhaps with 5 of them and 1 teacher, or 10 of them and a teacher and a carer. And I realized that you need to touch, you need to connect. And that connection, when you're very, very disabled, must be through touch to begin with. And then it can be through sound, so clapping maybe, praising. It can be through sight, so you make sure that the decoration is wonderful. And it can be through smell, so you get sense. So it's got to be multisensory. Otherwise, it will enter into their own world. And they'll either retreat or become, in order to get some activity, perhaps hyperactive. And when I started doing this with my students, who were wonderful, we went to ED Hospital before the bad old days, and we found miracles happening. So we just went on working at it and eventually got into the Wales Millennium Centre, where it just revolutionised children and adults who were isolated because of the extreme special needs. Might be physical, and it might be mental, and it might be behaviour. No, we didn't turn anyone away. So we had a program which worked, and that's unique and is still unique and still works. So that even though I've retired, I see that for people at a certain place will never connect with society unless they have this program. And then with luck, they will go on to perhaps dance drama or art or other things. Others will stay at that level, but it makes them happy, gives them a sense of well-being and connection, which nothing else does. And it's based on the movement program of Laban, who was the father of modern dance. Martha Graham was one of his pupils. So it's very much based on the arts, and it's very, very, very successful. And it gives, well, it's wonderful. So much so that it goes on being wonderful. We have taken it to India, where we worked in the Dalai Lama School for Special Needs. And they just want it so much, but we haven't got the money to take it over at the moment. I went to Hong Kong, where they actually, the English-speaking school, did start the program with us, but we actually didn't quite have enough funding to stay with them. So if you like, my passion is that I continue this program and that we take it where we have already taken it into work with dementia, where it was so successful and it needs to be still done. So it's under the auspices of the Touch Trust, and perhaps we'll have strands going into all these different places.
That's a good legacy to have, isn't it?
Fantastic legacy. Makes me happy, and I mean, there's no doubt about it that as you get older, you can sometimes get up in the morning and feel, here's another day, my limbs are aching, but then I remember my many, many, many friends who have got a light in their eye now. And of course, not only them, but the parents and the carers are also transformed. And it's so simple, but it's so important. And for me, that has to be my legacy. And I have, in the sense that I have to go on giving my energy to that until the day I die.
What sort of things what sort of change, I suppose, did you see through Touch Trust with everyone that kind of came in?
The light in the eye. And I mean, we have so many testimonials from parents. Parents will say, I've seen her smile for the first time. That makes me happy. Another one will say, you'll never know what you've done for us. I mean, I can think of, for instance, one young lady who was very challenging behaviour and had learning difficulties. Her beautiful sister looked after her and still does. And she was so disruptive that she was turned away from many care homes. She comes to Touch Trust. There's a smile on her face. In the morning, she looks at her sister, who says touch, trust, and claps, because that's very much a signal. And she's completely different. Now, you see, if someone loves you, you feel good. And in this connection, we are there as a partner, not a superior, not a teacher, not a therapist, but we're dancing with them. We look into our partner's eyes. We use our energy to be with them. And life is transformed, because at one time I thought, but we're only meeting once a week. That doesn't matter, because when you're in love with someone, if you don't see them every day, but you're different. And what is different is you've been respected, you've been loved, you've been appreciated. Now, one of the things we would say is, where you are is right. So in this program, nothing would be wrong. So that, for instance, I can think of a young man who had severe kidney trouble, and he had severe learning difficulties. And he would spit and kick. So he was a real problem. And if you open the door, he would run away. So 2 carers would be going after him. Now, we thought, let's try him coming to our program. And in the program, you always have a partner. So he came to our program. And of course, it wasn't long before he was spitting or kicking. But we would clap him and praise him. Now that sounds, and at first, carers would not be certain about this, but it's within the context of this hour, which would start in a certain ritual and end in a certain ritual. And then he began to feel, what I did then was all right. And we would clap him, and then he began to play the drums, and he began to, that's what he adapted it to, so banging and banging, and then in the end he became part of us completely. So where they are is good. Everything we do, we want to be praised for. We want to be approved of. We want to be appreciated, even if it's not quite right. If somebody can say, well, I know you tried hard and you didn't get it right, but you did. You tried your best. That helps us. Now, you can't, when we're working with severe learning difficulties, you can't philosophize in that way. It's right or wrong. And they're used to things going wrong and actually being given a row or being disapproved of. So one of the things we do, let's say, for instance, we have somebody with challenging behavior, and halfway through the program, they're going to do something which is going to harm somebody else. They're going to throw a big drum or something. We will then say, good, I can see that you now want to go, and we will clap them out. Say, we'll see you next week. And it always works. So the next week they might be able to find that they can stay within the group a little bit longer and a little bit longer. Sometimes we've even gone to the car. Say perhaps they won't get out of the car. So we'll go to the car and we'll take the beginning things, which is playing the bells, the Tibetan symbols, which means they don't have to do much. And they've only got to blink, and we can make a beautiful sound. And so we'll start in the car. And then gradually they will begin to feel a little bit more able to join us. Because everyone wants to join in, but they haven't got the skills. So, it is miraculous. And that's why they still come to us, even though we have a lot of difficulties financially. And the schools train their staff. So we have provider members who then go on doing it in their school. So that, and the care homes. So we've got probably at least 1,000 people who are taking part in our program weekly. And then some come to the centre as well. But it's amazing. I mean, and nothing has surpassed it. And we use breathing, we use massage, we use energy, Elvis Presley, we use drums.
Elvis Presley, yeah.
Yeah, we have a format, you see.
Yeah.
Mindfulness comes into it, not under that name. So we start in a certain way. We start in a circle, and everyone is welcomed and clapped and named, and perhaps touched if they want to be. And we go, the Tibetan symbols we find is good, because they will always make a beautiful sound. So that even if someone is not able to begin with to move their hand, we'll make that sound. And then we find that they become more able, so that almost always they get to the stage where they actually can focus and make that sound, and others even move on. We bring breathing into it so that there's a relaxation next to the beginning. So it means the carers become stress released, because they themselves are anxious and tense, usually, you see. And then from there we go into energy stroking, which it works, although it sounds as if it's a bit hocus pocus. Lots of people see our sessions and think, oh, this is a bit crazy. And then we go into a movement, into a massage, touch with our partner, whatever they want. We're looking at them. We may be stroking their arm, they don't want that. We may be just holding their shoulder, they want that. Maybe we want to touch their feet and they like that. So we work as to what they want. And then over the 10 minutes, they relax. Can't help it. They've been given this touch and this massage, this energy stroking, whatever they like. We've just telling them they're doing well. They relax. And from there, we change it completely. And then we go on to activity. So it's empowerment. So they're relaxed. Next, and we clap in between each section, which is also very important. And then we go into empowerment, which is to do with percussion, to do with singing. And they do as they want with music, and we get them to show and we clap. Then we put on the Elvis Presley and the lively and the balloons and the things, and it's really getting the endorphins going, this party atmosphere. We have to help carers get into the party atmosphere. Sometimes they're a bit sort of po-faced about it, and then they realise it's for them as well. So they get the endorphins going around their body, and we finally finish off with relaxing. And there's a little bit more to it, but I think that's probably just the essence. And then we close the ritual by playing the bells again, thanking them and taking them to go home. So there's a ritual to it. And the clapping of each section is very important, because if you are autistic, very often it's good to get that movement onto the next thing. It works completely. But it was based on 50 years of me working in the art of movement. So, it wasn't something that's just come along slowly. It's something I went to America, did lots of work here, worked with able, disabled, worked with executives who were getting stressed out or had ME, etc. The whole range, and out of this evolved this program.
Did you realise you would be in that position of helping to transform all those people's lives and running a charity and getting an OBE and awards for all this great work?
No, I've been lucky in that I've always been enthusiastic, I think, and I've always, what I'm doing, I love people, and I love life, and I intuitively know that we've got to make this connection and this flame, and the arts, of course, getting involved in that way. No, I think I've just loved life, and I mean, there are times when you don't love life, but I think my way has always been to get back on my bike and do wheelies. And I think that's what I want to teach people, really, if they need it. And I think society, very often there's a section of society which is different, wants you to sit in front of the television, wants you to watch something, wants you to buy the car because the car will make you happy. It's very good. It's not very good for making money, but it's not good for keeping that flame going. And I think, in a word, I want to see that flame, and I want to see people's light in their eyes. That's almost the tick box. Is the light there? No. Are they beginning to get stressed and go through the motions, and helping them to understand that that's danger, and that they better just begin to love themselves and find a way and getting the endorphins around. Who was it said? He was the guru of jogging. You never find a depressed jogger. Did you know that?
I love running.
Good.
I need to do more of it.
You look as if you do. And not very good runner. I would do a 2 mile, or I start off by going just round the block. So I'm not a runner, but I was always happy when I finished my jog and came in and sat down. So again, you're probably, the look of you, a good runner. You probably do 10Ks and things.
I used to, yeah.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah, I can see. And that's great. Yeah. But on the other hand, nobody should be put off by the fact that I used to go around, I was in my 40s, and I would put a beanie over my head, and I go out in the dark, and I'd think, okay, I'll run to the next lamppost, and then I'll walk, and then I'll run to the next lamppost, and I'll just go around the block, which was literally a couple of 100 yards. But then I felt a bit better, so I did a bit more. And a bit more to my level, you see. So that's anything is better than nothing is my actually motto. You
mentioned your great saying about wheelies. Can you talk us through that and what you mean by it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in a nutshell, that's almost what it is. I mean, life isn't a bed of roses. In fact, I mean, it's very good that we try to look on the bright side and we smile at each other, and in Facebook you put all the good things. But there's another side as well. Now, again, all these things are very subtle. You've got to be careful, because if you look on the things that go wrong, you pull yourself down and your energy goes and that light goes out, and it's not good for you or other people. So it's a delicate balance, but in fact, we always fall off our bike, don't we? There are so many times in life when you fall off your bike, and then you've got to just shake yourself down, have a sigh, have a cry if you like, have a little rest, but get back on your bike and do wheelies. And I say do wheelies, you don't have to do whatever you like, might not do a real wheelie, but you have to have a positive attitude. See, I believe in hope, and I don't mind how you decide on hope, but hope is the secret of it all. If you haven't got hope, when the bad things come along, you'll give up. So, hope, you've got to find hope somewhere. And then you've got to have this positive attitude to life. And I say got to, you haven't got to do anything. But if you want to have a life of fulfillment and happiness, that's what you've got to. And when you're young, I think, in schools, we've got to help youngsters. We've got far too many suicides. And life is not easy. Many of them might have a deprived home, so it's not easy. When you get old, then I think, again, life is not easy because your strength is going, your purpose is going, but you've got to find a way to get back on a bike, make a bike yourself if you like, and do these, got to. I mean, I think when I'm really, really old, or when I was ill, because I was ill, I thought I can't do anything, I'm no use to anybody, I've had my life, I don't feel even able to have an affirmation. I'll think of a word. And I just thought of a word. And then I thought, I can send good energy to somebody else. Because this butterfly in one continent flaps its wings, has an effect on another continent. And that's a scientific fact. So I would just send out energy or love or connection to a group I knew or to an individual. And immediately I felt better.
Really?
Because I felt I'd made a difference. You see? Now then, so I had a purpose. So, when you're really old, it might be as small as that. But we got to help people to do that.
That's very giving for you to be, in a situation like that where you might be feeling ill, but actually you're wanting to give to someone else.
Well, no, it was selfish in a sense.
Really?
Because, all these things, I believe it's, we want a give situation, and we have to love ourselves and others. But you see, here I was lying in bed feeling useless. I spent a little bit of time just with my thought, sending it out with a beautiful, perhaps, image of a waterfall. I can't remember what it was. But then I felt better, because I felt suddenly that in a very, very small way, I was being purposeful and had made a difference. So I felt better. So it's a give-give situation. That's what I think we're aiming for, where we each help each other and are helped.
So you got an OBE for your work. Was that with the Touch Trust?
Well, it was the beginnings of the Touch Trust, yes. It was for my work in college when we got the Sports Centre for the Disabled, which again was a new concept. So it was a concept of social respect, whereas before it had been the wonderful work of Gutman and Stoke Mandeville. But that was, if you like, arose out of medical, which was correct, which was right. But we were taking it further and wanting able and disabled elite athletes to work together. And so we got a room, a fitness, not a room, I think, an area where every station could be fitted for able and disabled. Okay. So you could work together. And Chris Hallam, who was a wonderful athlete right at the very beginning, who's now died, and John Harris, who is still alive, they were the two people who started something called PUSH, which is People versus Handicap. And I was lucky enough to be linked with them. And Ewart Parkinson, who was the planner, and we got it going in our college, and my students are wonderful. And I mean, that was 1996, and I still get students telling me, I'm a headmaster, I'm doing this, I'm a planner, and what we learned together with you still rules my life. So, it's basically, it's about respect for each other, which includes oneself.
How was it actually getting the OBE?
wonderful. Oh, my goodness. That was such a surprise.
Do you just get a letter through the post then?
Yes. And I got it on the train. And I thought, I won't. Well, I got it. Thought I'd open it on the train. Couldn't believe it. It was just so wonderful. And again, you see, people were generous, writing in about me and making all that effort for me. And of course, it has been tremendously important in the work I do because it helps open doors. I think to some extent, my life has been too careless and busy doing all these things I love to bother much about all these things. I think now I am beginning to think, oh, decay, Dilys, you made lots of mistakes in life. You might have been very foolish in times and hurt different people, but you have done something good. And I think we can all say that, really. When we look at life, if you're honest, we've been very foolish at different times, or uneducated, maybe we ought to say. And there are a lot that we've done that's good, I suppose. So the OBE was great, and I loved going into. The nicest thing, I think, was we hired a chauffeured car, stayed in Browns with my family the night before, and went to. Then we actually were stopped outside the gates where they went through. Was there a bomb there? And then we rode through the gates of Buckingham Palace.
Oh, really?
And that was such a lovely feeling. And then the whole thing, they do it well. And I think Prince Charles gave me my OB, and I thought he would just fiddle with his cufflinks and talk a bit. But you could see him with the others. He gave you his attention. He'd read it the night before. He asked the appropriate questions, and he never took his eyes off you until you had been told to move away. And after that, he would go to the next one. Now, I think that was terrific. That took commitment and energy and the sort of light I'm talking about, and the respect. It's a great life, but we've not got to weaken, and we've got to keep those lights going. And I think whatever we do, you with what you do so cleverly in your work, artists, anybody really, that's what we're doing, is trying to keep that light going for ourselves and for each other. And if we begin to feel it lessens for ourselves, or that we haven't bothered to get that smile on somebody else's face, then we're failing.
What would you say to someone then that you think they might say, well, I haven't got the lights, how do I find it?
Right. Now then, that's happened to me. And I think it happens to us all the time, I think more than once. And for me, I read Goethe, My Son Laughs, because this is such a paraphrase of what he said. Every day you should think of something beautiful, look at something beautiful, and listen to something beautiful. Now, that's so deeply psychologically right. So this happened to me. I was like a chicken with my head cut off, and I was busy. I was a single parent. My job at that time was going through a difficult time, and I thought, I haven't got time to go to a meditation class or go to the gym, and I haven't got enough repose to sit down and relax. But I thought I could do that perhaps for 5 minutes a day. So I would sit in a chair, or I would do it in bed, breathe deeply, just relax, and I would think of these 3 things. 6 months later, I thought, I'm happy. Well, I think it was less than 6 months later. I think it was about 6 weeks. And in my case, I was saying I'm skydiving. But you see, actually, that's mindfulness. Now, the only thing about mindfulness, it can be taught that even that becomes difficult. You're trying to be an hour sitting down and being mindful. And I really believe that's what I believe, that I have these hooks that are useful. I'm a very practical person, so it can be simple. Anything is better than nothing is my motto. But you see there, you're filling your mind with something positive rather than negative. In your mind, you're looking at something beautiful. You're switching the whole thing around. So certainly, you're breathing more deeply, and that's very important. I mean, if you've got nothing else that you can do, just do 3 deep breaths a day. Even that will begin to change you. And stay with the breath, because that's a very good way of meditating. But certainly, instead of the glass being empty or half empty, you're beginning to think of something beautiful, listen to something beautiful, and it can be just for 5 minutes a day. But it will always then get more and more and more. So it's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is the keys to happiness?
Well, again, the win-win situation, where you're helping each other, in a way of you're being useful. I certainly don't think it's in acquisitions. I certainly don't think it's to do with, making a huge amount of money. I mean, I suppose that can be for some people because that's their aim. But that's not it. I think it's to do with having a fulfilled life. In a way, I think the acquisition of things is quite anal and is being used as a substitute for empty lives. Having a hope, you've got to have a hope. And I believe, in magic, that, it may not seem as we're all material. It's not about only material. Whether you find it faith in different ways, you've got to believe there's more to this than this material world, I believe. Now, that takes a bit of a leap of faith. You get C.S. Lewis, and I think his writing is marvellous. In fact, I've got a book there by him. But it might be, I don't mind how it is, but you've got to believe that there's more than this material world. And we know it. We know it through art. We know it. We know it in love. We know it intuitively.
Why? What do you understand as outside of this material world then?
I am a Christian, but I say that because I think I don't want you to think that that's the only way. It's to have an understanding that there's more to life than this material. I believe in as below, so above. So it's almost scientific, that there are scientific truths which echo the material truths but are different to it. And I think we reach towards that. We reach towards that finer understanding. See, there's the explosion. I'll give you an example. The explosion theory is a geological theory. It's called the chaos theory. That if there's an explosion underground, there's always a result, somewhere, somehow, sometime. May not be in the place you expect it, or the form, or the time. Now, that can be taken spiritually. And I've certainly proved that if you give out energy, good energy, you will always find something good has happened out of it. Maybe years later, maybe not in the form. So I think these are sort of scientific truths in a spiritual way that I reach towards, and I find that it makes me know that there's more than the material world. Is that explained a little bit, Matt? Because it's difficult, isn't it?
I'm being brought into your world, definitely. Well, I think you're really big on energy, aren't you? And
yes.
I can feel great energy when I'm around you and I speak to you. And
essential.
Yeah.
And I think when we feel our energy dropping and when we feel stressed, we've got to do something about it. And those are the things that I'm suggesting you do, that you begin to relax, you begin to think something beautiful. I think our energy goes when we become negative, and I think actually sometimes work makes you negative, makes you stress on the material only. I mean, the material is important. But yes, dance, jog, think of the beautiful things beyond you. We know it, we see it all the time, don't we, in every day. Love, parents loving their children, us loving each other, a neighbour doing a good kindness to somebody else. There's a huge amount of that beautiful energy and light. I like to think of it as light. I'm always, lighting that candle, keeping that candle glowing. It explains it to me.
And you're a really big champion of kindness as well. Why?
Oh, yes.
Why do you think kindness is so important?
Well, kindness does it all. If we'd have no problems if we were all kind to each other. And that means to yourself as well. And sometimes I think we learn by being kind to somebody else, and it makes us kinder towards ourselves. Sometimes I think at times it would be that you have to be kind to yourself, and that makes you kind to other people. So, it doesn't matter which way you start it, really. And that's the connection. I mean, I know that you have this kindness thing, which is lovely. I remember meeting you, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, and being so impressed with your kindness. You got it there, that's it. So it can be as simple as that. So some people need to go into the theory and delve into things in a big way, and that's great. Perhaps you as well as me, but I'm very simple. And if you're kind and you've got one life, let's live it,
Indeed. And before you came in, I asked you to maybe bring in a book that's inspired you. You brought in several books.
Yeah, 5, I think.
The one also is quite interesting. You said you pulled out this one, and this is Kindness, the little thing that matters most. And this is actually, you hadn't told me about this, but this is actually by Jamie Thurston of 52 Lives, who appeared on an earlier episode of this podcast. And if you're listening, go and you haven't heard that episode, go and check it out, because Jamie's really impressive, and what she does through 52 Lives is really clever and incredible, and the kind of knock-on effect that she has through 52 Lives on all these other people is great. But it's a great book as well. So.
And if you start something small, but you're on this sort of golden vein, it will improve and get more. So don't think, and nothing is too little. So start with that, and then look at the effect you can have. Yeah. So, just don't worry. Because I think sometimes we worry, we can't do enough. We can't be a Nero. We can't be a... and then you don't do anything. No, start with a tiny thing. And then, if it's in line with this spiritual way that we're talking about, and it is, you'll just go on finding it so rewarding, you'll do more and more, and things will open up. Because things do open up. When you touch this golden vein, coincidences happen, things happen that you can't really explain. So I think that's one of my understandings of that there's more to life than just the material grasping, because these things come to help you.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned that, I was thinking, I think since I've been closer to my purpose, these sort of strange coincidences have been happening, and stuff's been happening to me, and you think, how's that kind of come into my life and things like that?
That's it exactly, isn't it? That's it exactly. And that, if you like, is almost a proof that there is this other dimension. I sort of feel to myself, once you touch this golden vein, which is, if you like, reaching towards your purpose, it just unfolds. I mean, the touch trust was one such thing. I felt it was a meteor going through the skies, and we were lucky enough to hold on to its tail and give it even more energy. It was meant to happen. And I think our aim is just to going towards those things that are meant to happen, which is this spiritual thing.
I love that. What's the books that you've brought in that have inspired you then?
I tend to have at the side of my bed, and my bed is on the floor because my bed collapsed. I'm on a mattress, which I love.
What's that? Your bed collapsed, so you're on the floor?
Yeah, and I just love it because it's hard and it's flat.
Yeah, okay.
And so I can spread all along the side now, all my books, which I then tend to pick up and read a bit of. Now, one of the ones that I love is the 4 quartets. Am I getting it right? By Lawrence Durrell. Wonderful. It's Justin Balthazar, Mount Olive and Clear. It just is such beautiful way of writing. And this whole concept, one set of circumstances, one incident, which is seen at different times, through different people's eyes, at different places, as it were. I'm not explaining it very well. But if you want a book that you can't put down, I would say, look at that. The other one is,
We'll put some links to all of these books as well, so if people want to check out your inspiration, they can try and track them down as well.
I just opened it last night just again, and I found I couldn't put it down. I mean, I think it's so beautifully written. I think the whole concept is wonderful. It just is a book that I turn to time and time again. Yeah.
What else have you brought in?
Well, I brought in the Screw Tape Letters. Now, this is C.S. Lewis. Now, this is quite funny. It's an older devil talking to a younger devil who's trying to influence things on Earth. Now, you don't have to be religious to enjoy it, because what it does, it pulls me back with humour. If I'm getting a bit self-righteous, if I'm getting a bit fearful, if I'm getting a bit lacking energy. I mean, all those things that go for the bad life, it pulls me back to the good life with a sense of humour. And it just is a lovely read. Nice. So it's important and it's lovely. The other one, I think, this chap, Masaru Emoto, who is a Japanese scientist who began to photograph raindrops or water and turn them into crystals. And actually what he's saying is so right. As bad words or words with ugly make for ugly crystals, while beautiful words like love and joy, the crystals are also much nicer.
Really?
And I think that is so important. So that's influenced my life quite a bit. I think that some people don't think it's very important, and that what he has done is a bit fanciful, but it's not. It really, and I've used it. I've actually put water and talked to it in beautiful words and used it to help my health. So I didn't take it to that affair. But again, when I was very ill and I couldn't do anything, I just thought of a beautiful word, which I think was grace. And I mean, I did have fluid on the lungs, which had to be drained by nurses every week for about a year, and I had to have a permanent drain. Now, I accepted, and I think the other thing is you need to accept, but you need to also do something about it. So I accepted that I was now going to be in a very different situation, but did what I could, which is where I decided to go to Japan, actually. So, I thought I can write a grant application even though I can't leave the house, and then somebody else can go if I can't go. So the two things. But I think it was then just having that one word. And of course, again, medical help, all those things are wonderful. So I had a good consultant who was an artist as well as a scientist, because she, again, believed in hope and positivity. And then I, myself, used a creative word, beautiful word. And now I don't have fluid on the lung, and I don't have the permanent drain. They've taken it out, which I gather at my age of, how old am I? 86, it was then, and now I'm 87. Is unheard of.
You may have seen that experiment where I think it was in a primary school, and the teacher was trying to teach the kids about the power of words and the power, unfortunately, of negative words and bullying. And they had 2 plants.
Yes.
And I think the one group would sort of almost like bully the plant and talk negatively and berate it and talk it down. And the other plants, they would say nice things to it and, give it energy and love and everything else.
You see?
And the plant that was actually bullied, it just kind of wilted up. I was really surprised. And obviously the plant that they kind of gave love to and spoke nicely to completely flourished.
You see? So there we are. You saw it on television. So the interesting thing is that these are facts that are proved. Another one is that older people, if they were given something like a plant to look after, actually survived longer than people who didn't. So we know these things, but we're sort of slow in following it up, aren't we?
Yeah. What's the last book that you've got in?
No, that is the same.
Oh, right, yeah,
yes,
it is,
yes,
It's just the bigger version,
yes.
Yeah, we'll put all these links up to these books up online as well with the podcast.
So this is called The Hidden Messages in Water, and that's called Crystal Healing. This was his first one.
Yeah, okay.
And actually at the back, he put in some beautiful music as well.
Oh, nice.
Because music is so important.
Yeah.
As you know, it's sort of music, it's words. And I mean, I, for instance, used to write poetry when I was young, and I got a lot from it. Now I haven't got the skills to do that, but I write haikus. And I think I saw a program about children in schools being encouraged to write haikus, and I think that's so positive, because there's only 3 lines.
What's a haiku then?
A haiku is a Japanese poem which is 3 lines.
Okay.
And I think it's 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. It's usually about nature, and it's usually got a bit of a twist in it. But I think the important thing is that it encourages children and me to be positive at the level at which I think I can, and use words, because words are very important. And that's much better than listening to the adverts, which can be quite mean. I don't know if you've noticed that, but sometimes many of the adverts are almost bullying in themselves.
Coming up, a quick advert break. What's the best advice you've been given, Dilys, by someone else?
Well, I think be kind, I think that is and the other one is, my father, who was 5'0" and had a heart of a lion, and he used to tie himself to a 3-story building because he couldn't afford to do anything else than tar it himself. But he always encouraged me to have a go. He encouraged me to be brave, to try and do things. So the two things, be kind, and also, if you like, have a go. Get on your bike and do wheelies when you fall off. Says it perfectly.
So I think this is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast is, one, shift people's perspective of what success is, maybe away from the material and money aspects of what supposedly success is to some people. And I'm always really interested in what success means to other people. So to you, Dilys, what does success mean?
Well, I was listening to a TED Talk where a very amazing pianist, whose name, unfortunately, because I didn't think you were going to ask me that, I remember. And he obviously has got money because he's very successful, goes around the world. And he said that what gives him happiness and a feeling of success is when he sees the light in someone's eyes that he's brought. And I thought to myself, that's it. I mean, I live in a little house. I've got my little car with a few scratches on it. Doesn't much bother me because, I'm not very interested in that. I've got enough to go around. I've got food. I've got, I can go on holiday if I want to. I'm very lucky. But that doesn't give me a feeling of happiness and success. But when I think of the light that I brought in, and in fact, I'm watching for that light. When I was teaching, I'd be watching for that light. That is what makes me feel, wow, I can really lie on my deathbed and I'll remember that light in the eyes. And you see, I think, we've got two instincts, both for survival, and we know that. We go to the gym, we get fit, we eat the right food, we work at it, but also for service. And I'm trying to do and encourage other people to work on the muscles of service. So not to be content with just sharing and giving a little bit. Think, how can I give a bit more? How can I work on that muscle? But it's very subtle, because if you start depleting yourself and getting into a stress, then you've gone too far. I mean, we can't be all Neros. We can't be all somebody who does a huge amount of things. So you've got to balance it all the time. But I think we should be working on our muscles of, we certainly this planet today. We've got to do that, haven't we, to survive? And it's quite easy to know that we should use less energy and that we should more sustainable energy, but it's quite difficult to change your lifestyle. And I think we've got to do that. So we've got to work on those muscles.
It was interesting seeing you. I saw you. Well, you've done a TED Talk as well, so people should definitely go and check that out. But we were at an event that my wife Andrea put on recently with Inspire Me, and you did the keynote talk there, which was amazing. But also there was another facilitator in there who smashed out some glass, walked across it, and then said, "Is there anyone else in the room that would like to walk across the glass?" And there was about 30, 40 other people in there, and everyone else was like, "No, that's not going to be me," sort of looking around. And you went up and did it. How was that?
Well, I trusted him, I suppose, you see. And again, it's quite logical. I knew he was an expert. I knew that he was asking me to do something which I'd never done and would be afraid of doing, and didn't see how it could possibly be done. But, again, extend your comfort zone. Again, you don't, jump off the cliff just because you're going to be brave. But if you know that there are ways that it can be done. So, keep pushing our comfort zone, certainly.
So, was that a first for you then, walking across the glass?
Yeah, it was. And I don't think if you'd asked me to do it, I would have done it. And it is true. I mean, there was one piece that stuck to my foot, so I just had to realize I had to get that off because that was sharp. But it can be done, you see. I think we give ourselves ceilings. And we don't go through that ceiling. And I'm at the moment where I'm trying to really push that ceiling that I've got, because we all need to do that. And that means getting, again, more light and more energy. But we learn from each other, we learn from books, and we never... But you see, for me, I suppose entrepreneurs who make a lot of money, they know about pushing the limits, which is great. So we can learn from them. But I'm interested in pushing the limits still. And for me, it is about bringing in the light, taking it further. If I use a skydiving idea, getting higher, but I think it's not necessarily, that's the wrong word perhaps to use. But yeah, pushing the limits for joy.
How do you encourage someone to kind of push through a ceiling when they might have fear or be scared or not enough self-belief?
Yeah, well, I take a movement class with people my age, and it's very much for me, because I broke my ankle in 3 places skydiving. So I lived in a small house, and I thought, I'm not getting enough exercise on a big floor, and the streets were quite bumpy, so that was no good. So I started going to a large hall and getting my friends along. So it was for me as well as for them. When they came, I now have a group of about 10, I think. They would see quite a bit of fear, quite closed, extending less, walking more slowly, looking sort of here, being a bit, now through moving, dancing, being in touch with their possibilities, extending their body because they're treating their bodies well, they now have changed completely. They come in with a light in their eye, and they will say this. You know, they'd be quite happy to talk to you about it. They feel more purposeful because we spend 5 minutes at the end talking about what we've done. And at first of all, people would say, oh, I haven't done anything. You know, I'm 80. My family have gone. And I live on my own. You know, I didn't do anything. And then they'll say, well, I did something, but it's not very important. I just baked a cake for someone, but I mean, that's nothing. Actually, it's huge. I mean, if someone smiles at someone, they've changed that person's day. And that means that not only have they made a difference, but I'm helping them to see that they've made a huge difference. Now, that gives them purpose. So suddenly, they're different. So, but when we do the movement, we put on Mozart, we put on Elvis Presley, and I have a sort of a deformment, and everybody's working in their own way, and I'm trying to help them to be aware, listen to their body. Listen to themselves, because in life we don't. We have to go to work, we have to do things. You know, if you like, the authorities, in inverted commas, but are wanting us to get the thing done, not listening to ourselves. So we grow up trying to fit in. Now that's terrible, so I say, if you're not enjoying doing this exercise, okay, do something different. Now listen to yourself. Are you enjoying it? Are you thinking, oh my God, I wish this piece of music would finish, or oh, I don't really enjoy this. Great. Do something different. So they're taking that to heart, you see. And that's what's happening. Now
so that's a weekly dance class that you teach?
A weekly dance from 2 to 3 on a Monday in my Secoid community.
All ages? Can I come along?
You could, yes. In fact, we had 2 young men last week who came because they're interested in rolling this sort of positive workout with older people in care homes.
Yeah.
And they really enjoyed it because I sort of thought, well, they won't want to join it, they can sit down. But yeah, it's for all ages. And we get chairs out, so people will sit in chairs at one point, at another point they won't. But it is about community. Come along, enjoy it. You
I'd love to. Yeah, that'd be really good.
And of course, this is based on the work that I did all my life, and I was so lucky to be trained by Rudolf Laban, who was one of the Bauhaus people in Germany, and he was the Berlin Opera master. And in the 1933 Olympics, he did the opening ceremony. And when Goering and Hitler and Mussolini, I don't know which one saw it, he had to run for his life because it was the wrong sort of thing. They didn't want what he was giving them. And he believed in that whenever we moved, when we expressed ourselves authentically, it was beautiful. You know, and that is what he was about, really. So in movement, it's about finding where you want to move and moving in that way. And suddenly you're changed. Now, it's all right again for the ballet people who do wonderfully. We want the racehorses. And I mean, they will, get bruised and they'll hurt themselves and they'll get to the top. That's great. So, there's room for all these things, but for a lot of people, it's not that at all. It's about being in touch with yourself, enjoying moving, feeling, am I enjoying moving, or is this something that I'm trying to fit in because the teacher has said? So, yes, come on, Matt, you will be perfect.
Yeah, that'd be good. So what's left for you to achieve then? What more do you want to achieve?
I want to get into old people's homes. I want to stop this circle where people are sitting. And actually, the whole management, if I had the money, I would like to start a care home, because it's about respect. It's about a project. It's about an enlivened atmosphere. It's about variety, but also it's about ritual, I suppose, you know. And that goes both in the running of a home and in the running of a movement class. The other small, so the large. And of course, Japan. And I still am very involved in the Touch Trust here in the Wales Millennium Centre, so that we can help get more money and keep going through the difficult times. So I've got not one project, I've got that project, Touch Trust. I've got taking it abroad, Japan. I've got the care homes. I do jewellery, which I adore.
You make jewellery, do you?
Yes.
As well? Wow.
And
where do you find the time to do that?
Well, I'm working on actually doing more in my time, and that means managing your time, doesn't it?
So, a final question then. Imagine all your friends and family are in a nice big field or at the beach, and they're looking up to the sky, and you've hired a small plane that carries one of those ones that has a message behind it, and this would be, say, your final message to your words of wisdom to all of your friends and family. What would it be?
That is so difficult, because in fact, you know, I'm a great believer people are at different levels, different intelligences, different personalities, so you can hardly do that. I think I would say, and this might seem a bit silly, but God is love, because I think when we look at that, then we can work everything out. Okay, it gives us hope, it gives us connection, it gives us kindness, it gives us energy. Okay?
Dilys Price, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for coming in. Where can people get in touch with you and potentially donate to Touch Trust?
Oh, yes. Well, you know, they can either donate straight to the Touch Trust, which has got a website. I've got a website, www.skydiver. It gets a bit, you know, I need to fill more things into it. I keep forgetting to do that. And then they can send it to me and I can post it on, or if they want to make it for Japan. I did a skydive recently with two of my Japanese friends, so that my Japanese friend can go out again this year. Can I give you my email? Is that no? Don't need that.
Yeah, we'll put all the links up online.
Yes, you can do that.
Because you're on Instagram as well, aren't you?
Oh yes, I'm really working at trying to get better. And again, you see, I find that I get nervous and I get worried with the internet, and my little job for myself now is to face it with joy, to go towards it and think, this is a wonderful opportunity. And of course it's right. That will change it completely. I go into it in a worried way and get it wrong. I go in to think, well, I can solve this. It's gone wrong, but I can solve it. And I either solve it or get somebody else, but it saved my energy and my light. My light is still shining.
Yes, well, Dilys, thank you very much for coming in. Keep shining that light and keep on inspiring people, because I think what you put out in the world is amazing, and the legacy that you've created is incredible. So big kudos to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hooray!